Malik Tillman, he's got class. And so if there's anyone on the field that can do that and float it into that top corner, it's that man.
Adams is going to lose the argument. Tillman and Robinson stayed over it. Tillman ran into Adams. 9 minutes plus stoppage time to go.
So this run-up is telling me more power.
Look at how Fossil's giving up the entire right side of his goal. Tillman! Again! Malik Tillman! 2-0 United States!
That's a really loud sounding crowd. And that play-by-play announcer called it right before. He said the goaltender was giving up that right side and Malik Tillman knocked it through in the 82nd minute. And they had already been playing 18 minutes shorthanded because of a very controversial red card, which I wasn't exactly sure how it worked. And I didn't think the Fox crew did a great job of explaining it in the moment. The U.S. has moved on to the round of 16 where they will face the Red Devils. That's their nickname, Belgium, I believe, who actually had a comeback for the ages in soccer yesterday. Good morning, everybody. I know a lot of you probably trying to either stay cool or get the hell out of town before this holiday weekend.
Good luck.
Many of you have off tomorrow. We do. We have off tomorrow. What will be running in our stead on 980 from 6 a.m. until 7 p.m.?
So we will be simulcasting, and then, I mean, as you always know, the Washington Nationals will play, I believe, a morning game. But yes, we've got
it.
A whole lineup ready to go. Toby and Ben at, from 6 to 10. Doc Walker taking the stage from 10 to 2. And then Zabe and Standing on the mic from 2 to 6:15.
That's a lineup for you. That's an excellent lineup. Really good lineup. Of course, any lineup that includes Zabe, Doc, and Ben, I'm all over. But Toby and Ben Strober do a great job as well. But if you are getting ready to travel and you're heading out of town, enjoy the weekend. We're going to talk a lot today about some big news that yesterday produced. The soccer is a big part of this first hour because I think yesterday's first two games were about as dramatic as anything I've ever seen in soccer. That's one. Two, what is Boston doing? Trading Jaylen Brown for 50-year-old Paul George and some picks. Don't get that at all. Scott McLuhan is going to be on the show. Remember him, the Redskins' former general manager in 2015 and 2016. It's become a bit of a tradition. Scott's been joining me on the show for about 4 or 5 years, I think now. Usually a little bit closer to the conclusion of the draft. He's still a consultant to many teams in the NFL on draft strategy. But he will, you'll hear what Scott said about Washington's draft and what he thinks about you-know-who, Brandon Ayuk. The Nats finished off the Red Sox with a 10-2 pounding of Boston yesterday at Fenway. Nats 2 games above 500. They really did a nice job. Real, true resilience after that brutal series against Philadelphia in which they blew so many late leads against the Phillies, and they came back with 2 of 3 against the Orioles and 2 of 3 against Boston. And someone has predicted that Washington will end up producing the offensive rookie of the year in 2026. This may be the only prediction that you hear on this specific player and this specific award. We will get to that on the show as well. Let's start, though, with the U.S. win last night, because this was a costly win. Their best striker, which is what everybody says, Flo Balogun is. He's their best striker. I know that the other guy, Pulisic, is their best all-around player, but Flo Balogun is their second best player and their best striker. He scored their first goal. It was kind of a mistake, I think, defensively for Bosnia, but that's how a lot of these goals get scored. It was in the 45th minute of the first half, and the U.S. took a 1-0 lead into the second half. Let me just say that watching this game start to finish, I never thought, and I don't know anything about soccer, and many of you don't either, but we're kind of like when you're watching something as a sports fan that you're not really totally familiar with, but you can identify the obvious. To me, the U.S. dominated this game start to finish, even when they were down a man. Like, I never felt, I know that when the red card happened, we'll get to that in a moment, that they were at a disadvantage. But, man, Bosnia was terrible, I thought. Terrible. They didn't look like they belonged. To me, it was like the first half, it's like in a hockey game when it's like, all right, I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but the ice is tilted in one direction. It certainly looked like the field was tilted and that the U.S. was a much better team. And they ended up proving it because they played 36 minutes shorthanded in the second half after Flo Balogun got red carded on a play that went to video replay. And I think universally, Max, unless you found anybody that supports this call, universally, this call is being absolutely criticized at the highest levels.
Yeah.
It was a soccer, kind of a soccer play. Man, you just never, this actually looked like an injury because Balogun stepped on the guy's ankle, which twisted the ankle.
It was
if
rough,
you
but
had the still of this, it looked like it was intentional. In real motion, in real live action, it just looked like they got their legs tangled up and his foot came down on his ankle. The ankle rolled. I mean, the guy rolled around on the ground like he was dead or was dying
bleeding out,
in so much pain. And he sold it well. But what I thought was interesting, two things. One, when they started to review for what they were thinking was going to be a red card or had a chance to be a red card, I immediately said, well, the guy wasn't even called for a yellow card on the field. I don't know why anybody didn't point that out. I thought that would have been a very valuable point. It's like, why are they going to video replay when the referee didn't even give him a yellow card on the play? Yellow, by the way, less than red for those of you who don't know. Yellow is like 2 yellows equal a red,
correct.
Right, Max?
Yes.
Okay. And a red is you're out. You're done. And I learned something last night about being done I'll get to in a moment. But I thought that for a non-soccer person, that was a reasonable point to make to myself watching the game. Actually, I was watching it with my wife. She seems to enjoy the pageantry of the World Cup as well. But when they came back and that referee kind of stumbled to get the message out that he was red carded, you saw some of the Bosnia players actually saying, man, sorry about that. Like, that really wasn't a red card kind of an event. Look, I don't watch soccer. Some of you do. I didn't think it was worthy of that. I thought if you're going to reduce everything to a still shot on replay, you can really find some stuff that looks egregious. That was not. And then this is where I thought Fox really fell down on the broadcast. They fall down in a few spots. And I actually like overall the Fox presentation of the World Cup. I think the studio shows, with the exception of what's-his-face, the big redhead, Alexi Lawless or whatever, I think it's pretty good. By the way, that Rebecca Lowe couldn't have been more pumped up after the England win. More on that in a moment. But you've got to understand that this is once every 4 years for the majority of the people who are watching this. They're not watching MLS. They're not watching, the Premier League. They're not watching La Liga. They're not watching Italian A or whatever the name of that league is.
Bundesliga.
This is what they're watching. You've got to explain what a red card means in that moment. You cannot assume that everybody understands that A, he's out, and B, he's out for the next game. And by the way, that you got to go one down the rest of the way. I bet you a lot of people were surprised about that once he got tossed, that you just don't sub somebody in. They go shorthanded the rest of the way. They got 10, the other team's got 11. You have to explain that. You know, some of you may be eye-rolling right now and because you're soccer people, but the majority of people watching this are sports fans, not soccer fans. And you've got to do a better job in the moment of understanding that. And they didn't. And then eventually they got around to saying, oh, by the way, he's also gone for the next game if they get to the next game. Now, up 1-0 and down a man, Bosnia definitely got more opportunities, but it wasn't like a dominant performance by Bosnia the rest of the way. They didn't get a lot of chances, so I guess you just chalk it up to the U.S. being a lot better. Maybe they're better coached. They made a couple of substitutions. There were a lot of substitutions in that game, I felt like. And it ended up being plus 10. I've never seen that on stoppage time, plus 10. But because you had the video review and you had all of these substitutions, you had the injury that led to the video review, you had a plus 10 in stoppage time. I did find it very amusing that it was plus 10, which means it should go to what? Exactly how many minutes should it go to with plus 10, Max?
100.
Can you do the math on that?
In a 90-minute game, 100.
They blew the whistle. They blew the whistle at 99:54. Didn't get to 100.
Woohoo!
Look, it's over. They can't score 2 goals in 6 seconds. Understood. But the U.S. moves on, and they're going to move on without this guy, Flo Balogun. And that's unfortunate because it looks like the U.S. is a slight favorite even without him against Belgium on Monday. Right? Did I see that this morning? I'm pretty sure I saw that. Yeah. You got the odds? I'm trying to find it right now. The consensus odds here. Let's just see if I can find what the U.S.-Belgium game is. Yeah, I mean, the U.S. is plus 153, Belgium's plus 169, and a draw is plus 242. So the U.S. is a slight favorite even without Balogun against the Red Devils from Belgium. I know the Red Devils from Belgium have that guy, Kevin De Bruyne, or whatever his name is. He's like an all-time star, right?
Yeah, their big star is this guy Romelu Lukaku.
Lukaku.
Yeah, he's come onto the pitch in like the 85th minute and scored in the 86th minute multiple times this tournament. He's
okay,
that
but
good.
Isn't that guy De Bruyne or whatever? Isn't he? Maybe he's just too old. Is that what it is? But wasn't he one of the game's biggest stars for years?
Yeah, I believe he's still active. If I'm not mistaken.
No, he is.
Yeah, he's 35.
Yeah, he was out there.
Yeah, he's still he's in the later stages of his national career, but still out there.
So U.S. and Belgium on Monday, 8:00 in Seattle. 8:00 Monday night in Seattle, the U.S. and Belgium for the right to go to the quarterfinals
Well, Monday Night Football
of the World Cup. That crowd in Seattle will be insane. I thought the Santa Clara crowd was really good, although I was listening to some of the early sort of reviews of the crowd, and they said the crowd's not into it quite yet. And then they got into it look, the U.S. has scored so quickly in all of the other games, and it took them until the final minute of the first half to get their first goal. But am I wrong by saying that I thought the U.S. dominated the game?
I don't think you are for most of it. I mean, toward the end when they were down a man and Bosnia was getting all those opportunities, I was certainly a little bit more on the edge of my seat just because, momentum, comebacks, and things like that. That happens all the time in the World Cup. I mean, we just saw it yesterday. So I was a little worried, but I mean, yeah, it felt like thorough domination through about 60 to 70 minutes of that game.
I am looking at team stats for this game. I don't know that I've ever actually pulled up the stats for a soccer game, but I'm interested in this. The first team stat that pops up is expected goals. And the U.S. was at 0.89 and Bosnia was at 0.25. I'm assuming that is based on the way the game went. The U.S. had an opportunity to score 0.89 goals and Bosnia only 0.25 goals. That seems like a pretty big difference. Now, the possession time, this surprises me, but I guess once the U.S. went one down, it got back to Bosnia 52% to 48%. Bosnia had 3 shots on goal to the U.S.'s 2. Now, the Bosnians got a couple of shots early in the game, and then that was it, I think, for the most part. They did have one opportunity in when they were a man up. Big chances created, U.S. 1, Bosnia nothing. Is that really a stat? Big chances created. In a game that goes 100 minutes, there's only one big chance created. That's crazy. And then you got accurate passes, duels won, saves, fouls committed. Interesting. And then the player stats. I don't even know what these things mean, but I don't know. Watching the game, I thought that the U.S. was clearly the better team. And there are people that think that Belgium's best opportunity to win a World Cup was the last World Cup, not this one. They're an older team, and they have not played well in this World Cup, although they did in a friendly, in a an exhibition match leading into the World Cup. They beat the U.S. 5-2. So there you go. That's my analysis and discussion of the U.S. game. I actually think the other games yesterday were nutso, crazy, because something happened that just seemingly never happens in soccer. I'll get to that next.
A heroic moment for the DR Congo goalkeeper, Harry Kane. Still Harry Kane! Oh my word! Majestic! Harry Kane! Unbelievable! England lead 2-1.
So that goal by Harry Kane, one of the big stars of the World Cup, came in the 86th minute of the contest, which meant there were 4 minutes of regular time, but then the stoppage time would be added to that, which I think it ended up being 7 minutes or 8 minutes. So there were still about 11 or 12 minutes left in the game. Look, he had 2 amazing goals. The game was dominated by Congo. It looked like England was going to suffer one of their most humiliating defeats of all time. They were favored against Congo, a solid favorite. They were down 1-0 for 74 minutes of this game before Kane scored his first goal and then his second goal. The interesting thing in watching this game, I watched a lot of soccer yesterday and last night, is that the announcing crew, and I need to know who that was. I think it was Fletcher. I think that...
Yeah, Darren Fletcher, the play-by-play guy.
Yeah, and so they're both Brits, I believe. So they were clearly very excited. No problem. I don't have a problem with that necessarily. And they were, I didn't listen closely enough to see if they were, biased during their coverage or whatever. But here's the point I was going to make. From that goal until the very end of the game, when the Congo had one last opportunity on a free kick, not a penalty kick, a free kick, the game was over in the minds and in the hearts of the play-by-play man and the analyst. When Harry Kane scored that goal for the rest of the game, the final 11, 12 minutes, whatever it was, man, Congo played their hearts out. This is a devastating defeat for Congo. They played so well, but Harry Kane's just a star, and he did what stars do. He won the game and led his team to victory, and it was a marvelous game for Kane. Marvelous game overall. England's going to play Mexico next. That's going to be a tough one because of the altitude. And it just kept going on and on and on. That's soccer, though. You get a 1-goal lead at any point in the game. It's like, your chances of winning go to 80% plus. You get a 1-goal lead with 4 minutes and then whatever the stoppage time is going to be, it's like 99% probability. That's one of the issues with this sport. And one of the issues that I think, conventional American sports fans have issue with is games are kind of decided by the first team that scores, or certainly by the team that gets a 2-goal lead. Now, there was not a 2-goal lead in this game, but there was in the game that followed. And this is where that narrative of there's never any comebacks gets thrown away. Now, this was very rare. Belgium playing Senegal, and Senegal dominated this game, and they led 2-0 until Lukaku, the Belgium star, scored in the 86th minute to make it 2-1. And then 3 minutes later, another Belgian player scored. In 3 minutes, they scored 2 goals. That never happens. Not for the people that watch every 4 years, World Cup anyway. They were down 2-0 with 4 minutes left. What do you think the win probability for Senegal was? 99.8%? 99.9%?
It's giving Nick's 20-point comeback energy.
Yeah, it was definitely that. Against Cleveland in game 1. I mean, the England comeback, was stunning enough. But the announcers, after they went up 2-1, with the same amount of time that Belgium was down 2 goals, they acted like the game was over. They called the game as if they were already previewing England-Mexico in the next game. And Belgium down 2-0 and looking shot and done. They get 2 goals in 3 minutes to force overtime, extra time, and then they got a very controversial penalty in the 120th minute Now, the 120th minute should be the end of overtime. Game went on for another 11 minutes after this because of stoppage time. It was random. Who knows? Referee just blew the whistle and decided at some point with 131 minutes in, it was over. But at 124, here it is. It's the latest goal ever scored in a World Cup game. The goal came with 124:44 elapsed time. And they took a 3-2 lead. Senegal got a free kick opportunity at the very end. And in the 131st minute, that's 11 minutes beyond the 30-minute extra time. So that's a lot of extra stoppage time for the extra time. I don't know what the longest game ever played is. I don't know. It seems like 131 minutes would be up there. But the goal that was scored was the latest goal ever in a World Cup. It was very controversial. It was a penalty kick call, and Belgium moves on, and Senegal goes home. After, feel sorry for the coach of that team because that's blowing it, man. And I don't even know if he had anything to do with it. But, yeah, you'd be hard-pressed to show me more than 5 games in the history of the World Cup where a team scored 2 goals in the final 4 minutes down 2 to tie it. That's just, in that sport, just seems impossible. I will say this, though, like I talked about the penalty kicks, on Monday night, really exciting when they got that first one and then got that second one. And you could see Senegal's, all their energy, all their life was sucked out of them. They had chances in the extra time. Belgium, though, kind of took it over, and that's where this thing is headed on Monday night. Belgium in Seattle against the U.S. It seems like to me, the England thing was great too. And that dude, Harry Kane, I would assume is going to get knighted at some point. I was listening to the post game, and with the likes of Beckham and Wayne Rooney, and many of you will have the list of the greatest players in English soccer history, but they were saying Harry Kane is the greatest England player of all time. And he came up large. Like, that's one of those performances in that sport where you're never paying for a drink again. I'm sure he had these moments already, but 2 goals in the final 15 minutes to avoid what would have been, everybody was saying a humiliating defeat. And they move on, and they have to play Mexico in Mexico City. That's insane. That game is on Sunday at 8 o'clock. I'm just going to tell those of you out there that are like, can you move on to something else? I'm going to. But watch Mexico-England Sunday night just for the insane atmosphere that is Aztec Stadium in Mexico City. The English against that Mexico team on Mexico's home soil. By the way, all 3 host countries into the round of 16. U.S., Mexico, and Canada. All into the round of 16. But that may be, Max, I'm just going to take a wild guess here. The Mexico-England round of 16 game might be the most insane atmosphere of any game in the World Cup.
I can say that without a doubt. Now, my big question is, how watched is it going to be, Kevin? It might be one of the most watched World Cup games of this tournament.
I'm going to watch it. That one I'm going to watch. Can you imagine? Like, what if the English win? What's that?
They're going to have to be airlifted by chopper off the pitch.
It gets dangerous around the pitch. I love the pitch. This is good stuff, man. It's really entertaining. Very entertaining. I won't watch when this thing's over another game for 4 years, more likely than not. Although the Euros, does that happen every 4 years too? And it's just the off.
So it's in the off year. So 2 years from now.
Yeah, I like the Euros. I've watched that before. That's pretty exciting. That is a
entertaining.
big deal. I've actually been in Europe a couple of times during these events, and I'm going to be again late next week. But we'll talk about that later. I like it. I like it a lot. It's fun to watch. And, the other thing, too, is these aren't they're typically not, but they're not super long affairs. You're talking about, 90 minutes of actual, but it's more than 90. But it's like, with the halftime and now the hydration breaks, basically you're wrapping this thing up in 2 hours or less. That's not bad for a sports, game, event, match, sports match. All right. I mean, part of me wants to see if anybody else is feeling this like I am. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. I'd like anybody that is, somewhat, knowledgeable about this game to call in and let me know if that red card was a bad call. It would appear, based on the reaction and what I've read this morning and what I was watching last night, a horrendous call. It cannot be appealed, by the way. I read that this morning. So the red card cannot be appealed to let Flo Balogun into the game against Belgium. And also, just real quickly, the U.S. doesn't have to play 10 on 11 because he got the red card in the other game. They get to sub a player in. They'll be at full strength, just not at full strength in terms of their best players on the field. But they're not going to start the game one down. Look, I thought about that. I didn't know, because it's kind of weird that you can't sub for a guy that got tossed to begin with. It's like you're on the power play for the rest of the game. But it's not really like you're on the power play, because the field's just so damn big. And you can just kind of kick it around and kick it backwards and just defend the rest of the way, which is what the U.S. did. But 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Two-part question here, all right? Your reaction to the red card on Balogun, 1. And 2, what is the best case? How far can the U.S. go in this World Cup? They're favored to get to the quarterfinals. The semifinals, looking ahead, that would appear to be France. That might be the end of the road, or the best case. But I want to hear from you soccer people who always tell me I don't talk enough about soccer. And then when I do, I'm not very sophisticated in talking about soccer. But I'm enjoying it, and so I'm going to open up phone lines and see what happens. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Reaction to the red card on Balogun, and how far can the U.S. go in this World Cup? Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the Team980.com.
See, Mark, when you see the still image like this, it's easy to say that's a red card. And I could see why this will potentially be given. But this is why I like seeing them in real time like this. Because, look, he doesn't even see Muharemovic coming. He's coming on the outside of him, and he jumps in front.
Yeah, this is not consistent what I've seen for the rest of the tournament. When this type of challenge comes, it's more of a step in action. And when it's step in action, it lacks force and intensity. But the problem you've then got is as Balogun puts his foot down, he catches the foot of the Bosnia and Herzegovina player.
We'll see what the final decision is.
Potential game-changing moment.
After review, the number 20 United States committee serious foul.
Yeah, it's going to be a red card.
The final decision is red card.
Wow.
What did he say? Super serious foul? Is that what he said? Is that how they describe it?
I don't think that's what he said. I got, you know what?
Okay.
You want
he
me to
got the red card. He got red card.
Yeah.
He got tossed. And again, I like a lot of people, I feel confident in saying this, needed to know what that meant. I knew it wasn't good. I know that yellow card's not as bad as red card, and red card I knew was an ejection. I did know that. I needed to know what it meant for the next game. They didn't tell us that for a while. I think you got to assume when you're Fox, and again, I've actually enjoyed some of the broadcasts. I like the crew with your guy, the guy that played in Sweden, but is, has the Eastern European last name. What's his name? I like him. I like Henri, the French guy. I don't like Lawless. I like Rebecca Lowe. Man, she was out of breath after the Harry Kane led comeback for England. By the way, but I just think overall, you've got to know, like they do these cutaways in the crowd to soccer stars. I'm assuming they're soccer stars, and they don't identify these people. You got to identify these people. You're not cutting away to Magic Johnson or LeBron James, or Pat Mahomes. I mean, when you're cutting away to some famous soccer star, tell us who it is, please, and the significance of the person, and give us more on what happened there, okay, and what it meant for the next game. That took them a while to get to. I did look up the biggest comebacks in World Cup history, and the Belgium comeback against Senegal is ranked as the fourth greatest comeback in World Cup history. The greatest comeback was a 1954 quarterfinal game between Austria and Switzerland. Switzerland jumped out to a 3-0 lead in the first 19 minutes. Austria came back and won the game 7-5. It's the highest scoring match in World Cup history, 7-5. In 1966, which I'm pretty sure was the last year England won the World Cup, Portugal was playing North Korea in a quarterfinal game, and North Korea took a 3-0 lead. Portugal came back and won the game 5-3. That's considered the second greatest comeback in the history of the World Cup. Those are the only two comebacks in the history of the World Cup down by 3 goals. No one's ever come back being down by more than that. But only twice has a team gotten a 3-0 lead and then blown it. The third greatest comeback, this is apparently one of the most famous World Cup games in history, 1954 final between Hungary and West Germany. They call it the Miracle of Bern. I'm assuming that means it was in Switzerland, the World Cup. This is one of the most famous comebacks in tournament history. Hungary's Magical Magyars. I guess that's their team name. I was thinking it was the player for a second. Were unbeaten in 31 matches and took a 2-0 lead within 8 minutes, but West Germany answered immediately, tying the game in the 18th minute, 2-2, and then in the 84th minute, Helmut Rahn scored the game winner to crown West Germany the champions. So that was down 2-0 early, plenty of time, and that's considered the third greatest comeback. And then yesterday's Belgium-Senegal game, Senegal up 2-0. Nothing equals in terms of the lateness of the comeback, in terms of the first top 3. And this has to be the latest a team has been down by 2 goals and come back and won. It appears to be the case because Belgium got goals in the 86th and 89th minutes to force extra time and then scored on a penalty kick in the 125th minute, which was controversial. It was the latest goal in World Cup history at 124-44. There you go. Interesting stuff, I think. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Some of you are watching, it would appear, like I am. 2-part question. Your reaction to the red card given to Flo Balogun, one of their 2 best players, one of their 2 best offensive players. He's out for the Belgium game with that red card. They had to play 10 on 11 for 36 minutes of that game. Your reaction to that. And then what are the U.S.'s chances here? What's the best they can do? I'm thinking, not knowing anything, looking at the bracket, that they can beat Belgium. I mean, they are favored to beat Belgium. And then the round of 8, the quarterfinal game against either, Portugal, Croatia, Spain, Austria. I think Spain is favored, or Portugal. I would assume that that's it. That if it's Spain or Portugal, good night in the quarterfinals in the Elite 8. And then if they were to get to the semis, it would more like, France right now is the favorite to win the whole thing. They look like they're unstoppable. The goal, by the way, that Mbappe had the other day where
unbelievable.
He just crossed somebody up. It was really, really tricky, clever, crafty. It was an Iverson crossover. It was beautiful. He's watching him and Messi, you can just see something that is different. All right. What do you think the best case is for the U.S.? I'm going to give it the quarterfinals. Am I shorting them 1 round? I might be.
Spain's really good. Really, really good.
Yeah. Where would that game be? Somewhere in the U.S., I know, but
I'm honestly not sure.
I think it'd be cool as hell to see the U.S. in the semis against France.
That'd be nuts.
I'll tell you, some of the U.S. fans, they're a little bit obnoxious, though.
Well.
All right. Bob, Outer Banks Bob, go ahead.
How you doing, Kevin?
How are you, Bob?
I'm pretty good. It's a beautiful day down here in Nagshead.
Yeah, be good to be at the beach.
Red card, I think, was a bad call because he was off balance and he had to step somewhere and he just stepped on the guy's ankle. But the way officiating goes, once you did that replay, it was kind of hard to go against it. And then I think they will lose in the next. They should be able to beat Belgium, but they will lose then to Spain or Portugal.
Yeah.
There's a really good game today. Croatia, so it should be a really good game.
Croatia and Portugal.
And, that's today, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, that last game for Ronaldo, not the last game, 2 games ago, was pretty exciting when he got, sort of that 10,000-pound weight off his shoulders, having not scored in 4 years in international competition. And then he scored 2 goals in that game. I think that based on just following the odds and not analyzing the teams, I'm not about to give you that, Spain is better than Portugal. And Spain is going to be the favorite to advance to the semis out of this quarter. But could we see a U.S.-Spain quarterfinal game? Yeah. And look, the U.S. is playing on, theoretically, home soil. Now, I don't know what kind of opponent would make the crowd tilt in the opponent's favor. Would Spain do that, Max? If Spain's playing the U.S. in a quarterfinal, what about Belgium? They've got a lot of people here, right? What's that Seattle crowd mix going to be? What percentage U.S. fans? What percentage Belgium fans?
I have a feeling it's going to look a lot like it did against Bosnia last night, but who knows? Might be more Belgian fans than I'm giving them credit for.
70-30.
70-30. What would it be? What's the team that's traveled the best in the World Cup? Do we know? I mean, I heard that the Europeans weren't traveling nearly like the South Americans were. Like the Brazilians and the Argentinians.
But you got to admit, the Norway fans are the funnest to watch.
They're awesome, but I don't know what the numbers are for them. Scott went to, my buddy Scott Van Pelt went to Philly last week and saw France play. I forget who they were playing. And he said there were a lot of French there, but he said the crowd was awesome at the link. And, it was, I forget who they played. Who did they play? Maybe it was Sweden. Could have been Sweden. All right. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate the call. Let's go to Marlon in D.C. Marlon, your reaction to the red card and how far can the U.S. go?
Hey, Kevin. Long-time listener, first-time caller. So, but the red card, if you see it on game speed, you want to consider it a red card. But when you slow frame by frame, like an example for a football PA call, if you slow a frame by frame, you're going to get a pass interference call.
Right.
But when you see a game speed, you're going to be like, oh, no, this is a normal play. So, and then the pundits were saying Messi had the same play.
I saw that.
When he kicks a player.
And it wasn't.
And they didn't give him a red card. So, so if you're going to not call that a red card, why would this one be a red card? So now how are you going to be able to keep it constant? So, but I think for the USA team, it's a toss-up with them in Belgium because all the top teams, it seems like they have a slow start in the first half, and they always come alive in the 80th minute when they're down a goal or two.
The top teams. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like England, the one thing that everybody keeps saying about Belgium is that they're an older team and that their time has, their time to be a legitimate threat to win the whole thing was 4 years ago, not now.
Yeah.
So
right now, this whole World Cup is a toss-up because, Germany's out now. Netherlands is out. Netherlands was supposedly on their prime, and they're out. Same as Germany. So,
but France is still in it.
Yeah, but even France has a slow start. It's not like they. As soon as the game starts, you can see the control of the game. It seems like they're playing like the Chiefs. You know how you say Mahomes is bored? That's what France is playing right now.
Right.
They're so
maybe
bored,
that's it.
And
they're bored. They want to make it more exciting than it needs to be.
So I don't know if that also has something to do with the temperatures here, because it's hot and humid. So they're probably not going 100%.
Well,
so
some of these games
like 50,
have been,
60.
in domes. I mean, the Houston, Atlanta. So some of these games are temperature controlled. Seattle and Northern California aren't going to be hot like it's going to be on the East Coast.
Yeah, I grew up playing soccer, so that's what I was thinking. Like, why are they giving hydration breaks on dome stadiums?
I don't know. I mean, I think the answer is it gives them a chance to sell ads and run commercials, right?
That's true. Yeah, that's true. So,
one thing about
one
thing about the video thing, and I said this, Marlon, earlier in the show, in real time, and I'm not a soccer guy, but I'm like, how are they reviewing for a red card when the ref didn't even give a yellow card on the field? Like, how does it jump from nothing to red card? Look, you can jump from nothing called to a flagrant 2 in basketball, so I guess that's the analogy. But you slow anything down and it can look terrible. I feel badly for that player because he's a really good player, and they're going to probably miss him.
For the direct red card, like I said, I grew up playing soccer, so that is if you can see if they're going with intent to hurt somebody, like if you're going cleats on to somebody's chin.
That's not what he was doing.
For this play, he was following the flow of the game. And, it's like basketball. Somebody land their feet down, and there's where you put your feet down.
Yep,
no doubt. They're going to call that a flagrant if you slow it down.
Yeah, but that's a flagrant. Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Marlon, for the call. Appreciate it. All right, everybody on hold, stay there. We'll do another round of World Cup calls. Two-part question. Your reaction to the red card. My buddy Pete just said to me, he said, you should have just taken the other side, that the red card was the right call. I don't do that, Pete, number one. Number two, it would have been a tough sell to say that it was the right call. But yeah, maybe that would have gotten some of you riled up a little bit more. But your reaction to the red card, and then what is the U.S.'s upside in this tournament? I think it's Spain in the quarterfinal. What the hell do I know? But I think they, for some reason, I just think they might beat Belgium on Monday night. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. This from Steven. Do you think you'd be as much into the World Cup if it wasn't being played in the U.S.? Yes, I've been into it in the last 2 to 3 World Cups. And it was in Qatar. Where was it? No, that has nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. I guess, these games in Mexico City with Mexico are really, really fascinating. And that game against England Sunday night is going to be one of the must-watch World Cup games in recent memory because of what everybody in that world knows is one of the most intense environments in the sport worldwide. I mean, this is like an LSU night game. I mean, that's exactly what the comp is in terms of the decibel level, the intensity, and then the opponent being England and their fans. This is, you know what? Sunday night is Bama at LSU in Death Valley at night. Now, in terms of the interest level, it's not there for me. But I'm just saying in terms of the atmosphere, that's probably the best we can do comp-wise. I'm not saying it's going to match. I'm not sure anything matches Death Valley at night. I've been to Bama LSU at night. It's the most intense, loud atmosphere I've ever been in a football game that was outdoors. I've been to some fights in Vegas, some big fights in Vegas that had just, memorable electricity. I've been to some college basketball games and some other college football venues, just amazing electricity. But this is what the American comp from a crowd standpoint might be Sunday night, Mexico City. But no, Stephen, I am into this thing and have been. Don't like it for 4 years, but give me this month. And look, it hits at the right time for us too, because there's nothing else going on. But you reminded me that the Qatar World Cup was happening. Was it happening during football season?
It was, because I remember there was like a Black Friday game, I think, where we were playing like England or something, if I remember correctly.
Okay. So I must not have watched nearly as many games in 2022. There's no way. I mean, they were playing games, you're saying, up against football on Saturdays and Sundays and Monday nights? Yeah. Yeah, you're right. November. Yeah. I remember watching it and talking about it, though. Where was the World Cup the year before that?
In 18, Russia?
Yeah. All right.
And then 14 was South Africa was 2010. I can't remember what 2014 was.
I'll tell you where it was here in a second. I think I will.
Brazil, genius.
Brazil.
That's what it was.
Okay. I've enjoyed these World Cups. I don't know what to tell you.
They got waxed by Germany at home.
Let's go to Very, Germantown. Sorry if I botched the name. Right. Go ahead.
It's all good, Kevin. Kevin, can I tell you how much of a breath of fresh air this is to hear you talk World Cup? Like I've been with you since the Sports Fix, and I remember like 2010 World Cup hitting you up on Twitter like, "Hey, are you going to talk some World Cup?" You sprinkled it in here and there, but to hear this is very refreshing.
Where was it in 20? South Africa was 2010.
Yes,
that was the South Africa.
Let me just tell you, when I was doing the show with
USA.
Yeah, when I was doing the show with Tommy, we were very condescending. Tommy still is condescending about most things, but I
feel like you still are a little condescending too,
a little
Kevin.
bit here and there, but not.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it for for like grins and giggles. I'm doing it because it's really I don't get the clock thing. That to me,
Kevin,
it just would drive me nuts.
And I hear you talk about it all the time, but this is what I'll say. And look, I love your show. I love how you cover American sports and everything. I'm a Redskins fan, all of that. But how about we try to keep an open mind and let the World Cup be what it is and not try to look at it from an American sports lens. And just let the clock thing be what it is. Yeah, it's crazy. Doesn't make the most sense, but that's the way they've done it for years. Let's just let that sit,
Well, let me just say this. I can only look at it from an American sports fan lens. That's for starters. But secondly, I think I do acknowledge that look, the rest of the world doesn't have a problem with it, and it's fine. Right. And this isn't condescending, but bless them for enjoying that and it not bothering them. But from an American lens standpoint, along with the the flopping and the fake injury thing is, I think, the hardest thing for American sports fans to overcome with soccer.
I get that. Now, Kevin.
I think the pace of the game is the other, and the lack of scoring. But go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say about the red card and the U.S. team's chances.
Okay, so the red card, they have VAR now and do all of these reviews, but I feel like they're still not getting it right, and it's still very inconsistent. The offsides, I feel like the calls, like you're talking a toenail, like you can't even really see it from the shot, and I think they really need to get that corrected, especially, and be more consistent, even with the referees conveying to us what they saw. I don't even think they're being consistent with their messaging whatever, either way the call goes. So that's one thing, but I definitely don't think that was a red card or a foul. That
you don't even think it was a foul?
I don't think that should have been called. I mean, I think that was more incidental than anything. But that's just my opinion.
Wow. I mean, I see a lot less than that get called as a foul, and even a yellow card sometimes, I thought, Vuri. When I see, I mean, that was a legitimate, injury. Anybody that's ever rolled their ankle or had it stepped on and have it roll, how painful that is. Right. That looked like, at the very least, a foul to me. Just not,
a flagrant. Foul, I could go with that. But a red card, I think, was just extreme. Like, I've seen red cards, what warrants a red card, and that just wasn't it to me. So I definitely think they need to be more consistent with it. Now, as far as, our ceiling in this tournament, I don't necessarily love the Belgium matchup, especially with Lukaku still being on the squad. I mean, you see how dangerous he is once he entered the game yesterday. Yeah. But, they're definitely older, but it still, has reminiscence of the team we played in 2014 that really gave us problems. So they would just really need to tighten up, and, they may have a chance to maybe be able to get them with their youth. But I don't necessarily like the matchup, but we'll see what happens.
All right. I've got one observation that I haven't mentioned that I'm going to mention to you because you know the sport. In watching the U.S. through these 4 games now, and I won't count the third game that they didn't have anything to play for, but they look quick and they pass very quickly and decisively, more so than some of the other teams they've been playing anyway. Like, they look like a world-class team, whatever that means. In terms of the best teams that I've watched, they don't look like a lot different in terms of moving and passing the ball and their quickness and decisiveness.
Right.
Assess.
No, I definitely think there's some really, really good game planning and how they're running their offenses and their sets and everything. But with all due respect, I definitely think there's levels to this, and then they're not on the level of, you see a France and you see how special the players are with Mbappe, even Messi on Argentina at this age. Like, you just see how special he is when those guys get the ball. Harry Kane yesterday, you see the angle from which he bent that ball in on the second goal, like, just tremendous. And we don't necessarily have that. I just don't see this team being as dominant. And then if you look at the competition, I don't think they've necessarily been tested. But, I think Belgium will be a good test. And if they could get past them, hey, I mean, look at Paraguay. Like, you have teams that can find ways to advance. You just got a game plan and find a strategy. I mean, look at all these African teams that got eliminated that were underdogs, but they had legitimate shots in each of these games. Congo yesterday, Senegal yesterday should have won that game. So, we'll see what happens. I went to the Toronto game, the Ghana game in Toronto a couple weeks ago. And the environment is just fantastic, Kevin. On July 19th, when you go to that final, man, you're going to have a great time, man.
Yeah, no,
embrace the sport, man. And even in this part of the sports calendar, it's a perfect opportunity to leverage and discuss the World Cup. We don't need to be talking about Brandon Ayuk. We got plenty of time for that, Kevin.
We got to do. Well, Bree, we got to do that at some point today. We're going to have to do that. But no, I'm enjoying it.
They're trolling. Like,
I'm
why
enjoying
we
it.
making that the subject when there's a great game going on? Let's do this.
You know me, man. I prefer talking about games. It's much more fun. Thanks for the call. Really do appreciate it. Let's go to Tarek. Tarek and Laurel, go ahead. Go to Ba and Greenbelt. Ba, go ahead.
What's going on, Kevin?
How are you, Ba?
I'm doing all right, sir. What's up? Hey, man, I know, y'all don't know I know soccer. You know, I grew up in Senegal. First of all, I'm so angry.
Oh, you got to be crushed.
Kevin, I'm going to tell you, we came in this World Cup with 26 players. They all play in Europe in a top league. I came here with a lot of expectations. I'm going to tell you why we lost. The coach made the wrong thing. Them people who came in basically took the level. We controlled the game for 85 minutes. This is in Senegal.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's the reason why we lost. But now let's talk about USA. That's my second team. Home, sweet home. You know what I'm saying? USA got a lot of chance. I've been watching USA for years. But I'm going to tell you something. Y'all got talent. And talent can be shown. USA, you see Balogun. Balogun played with two Senegalese in Monaco. Number 15 and number 8. The guy who created the penalty for Belgium played for with Balogun. So we got that type of thing. But I believe USA semifinal.
Semifinals.
I'm not hating on it. I believe y'all can beat Belgium. There's no doubt about that. I don't know after that, but I believe y'all can take Belgium out. And, we're rolling all the way in. The red card, anybody will get that red card. It's just like throwing the elbow in somebody's face like Wemby did. He made a mistake.
So you think the red card was deserved?
Oh, yeah, it was a red card. Anybody will get that red card.
Okay.
In the soccer world. That's just a reality. He stepped in his leg, and he stepped so badly. Even it was an accident. But that's the rule of the game.
Okay.
In basketball,
all right. It seems like a lot of the soccer pundits think that it was not a great call because it was just normal action.
Yeah,
but
we
thought the call was a good one.
On it. But I want to talk about something. Your brother going to enjoy Mexico. I'm telling you, Mexico is dangerous because right now, England, they will suffer. Mexico coming here, I don't know. But I guarantee you the Azteca is 10 times that game you're talking about. In Mexico, Sunday night? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's going to be crazy.
Anyway,
crazy. But let me just tell you, the Death Valley on a Saturday night against Bama, forget about it. You've never been in anything like that. Ba, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Let's go to Billy and Chantilly. I'm curious to see what Billy has to say about the soccer. Go ahead, Billy.
Kevin, you'll recall that one of my highlights of my youth was the header goal I had at RFK Stadium.
Yeah. Oh, no, the game you played in before a game or something?
Before a game. That's right.
Yeah,
I was at the
do remember you telling me the story about your greatness.
Soccer team member and a header goal. I attended the World Cup in South Africa with my wife in 2010. I'll have you know, Kevin. So I am a fan of the World Cup.
Okay. So red card, weigh in on the red card.
The red card is simple. If you're having a conversation about it, which you are, you've posed a question, then it's not a red card. It's the red card definition is like the obscenity definition. You know it when you see it. So if it's even a conversation, if you know it when you see it, it's not a red card.
Yeah, I don't know if obscenity is typically the expression. It's usually something dealing with pornography. Yeah. I think you know it when you see it. But I know. But here's the thing: like when in an NFL game, when they're sitting there at the 2 or 3 minute mark, it's like, hello, if you're that unsure at this point, the call stands. Right. The one thing that they did last night, that was pretty quick and decisive off the replay. The guy came back out like after 20 seconds of looking at it.
It can't be a red card. If it's not called on the field, it can't be a red card.
Well, apparently it can with video replay. All right,
that's our best player.
Tell me about the U.S. the rest of the way.
The rest of the way is going to be a challenge. You're going to get through the Belgium game. It's going to be tough, but then you go to L.A. You need that home field advantage, and I don't see where likely Spain goes through and we see Spain in that round. I think that's going to be a challenging environment in LA to get the crowd fired up.
So the quarterfinal game would be in LA?
To carry them. That's right. To carry them through. The crowd carries these teams.
Yeah. All right.
And Kevin, I've got one other comment for you before your fans here. And you're talking about just the excitement of the game. And by the way, shout out to the Scottish fans. Unbelievable showing. They drank all the beer out of Boston.
In Boston.
My wife and I have scheduled a trip to Scotland just to spend time with those people because they're
the best.
Just a really community environment overall. But the Scots stood out. 2013, look it up. Watford versus Leicester City, the Deeney goal. All you fans out there, Deenney goal. It's like a 3-minute clip. It's one of the most phenomenal sports clips you'll ever see in your life.
Thanks, Billy. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Let's finish up with Mike in Bowie. Mike, go ahead.
Oh, man. So yesterday, if you remember my call, I called in. We were talking. We were like just dwelling in the fact that like how much we like. I feel like I'm really connecting with you on this, like what you're putting out there about your feelings about the soccer and the rules, because I feel like you love it in a way. And I love it in a way, and then at the same time, like it's like new for us a little bit because it's just so off the chain. But I caught in about some of the rules and the offsides. When I saw those 2 offsides yesterday, I immediately thought of 980 and my call today. That was like the first thing that just popped in my mind.
Right.
Like this
the offsides, but they were the right calls, right, against the U.S.
Look, whatever it was. I saw a man in the box with the ball. 2 men in front of him. At one point, there was 3. He kicked the ball and it went in, and he got caught for some sort of offsides. So outside of that, I'm just like, what more do you want this man to do to score? You know what I mean? It's like, what more does he do to get that? I mean, like you're out there. Does he have to watch other people and navigate around them? I mean, these guys can't go for it.
No, if you don't have the ball, you're the one that has to stay on side.
You know,
you can't be the last player between the goalie and the closest defender. You got to have a defender that's at your level or behind, right? I think that's what it is. When the ball's kicked,
dulls the game down. Look, I think it dulls the game down. If you had in basketball or football and you posted someone up out there, you put a guy on them. Like you can't have a man in the box kicking the ball.
Mike, we can't look. Here's the thing, and one of our early callers. We're not going to, as American sports fans, we're not changing the rules of the world's most popular game. We can express, our first of all, the mystery surrounding some of this, and even, from our standpoint, ridicule it a little bit, but we're not going to change it. And, you said that you and I love it for the same reasons, and I want to be clear on this. I don't love it more likely than not for the same reasons the rest of the world loves it. I love it because it is a novelty in many ways. And the importance to the rest of the world, whether it's soccer or anything else, is always interesting to me. But in sports, it's really interesting. And look at the crowd shots when some of these teams score or win. It's not life and death, but in some places it's damn close. The closest thing we have to this in our country, I think, is college football in the South or in the Midwest, probably more so college football in the South. That's probably the most passionate sports fans get in this country. Insanity, life and borderline, life and death. I mean, look, Yankee fans, certain football fan bases, etc. But there's something cool about it. And the game itself, I'm learning a little bit here and there, but it's still not something that I could ever see myself investing free time in other than for this event or the Euro.
When I say you love it, I mean like you love the competition, you love like our guys on the field, you love the fact that we got like home field advantage and we got a shot to win. When I look at the pool, okay, you see Spain and Argentina and Brazil. The thing is, we don't have to beat all them. They're going to all play themselves. We don't have to play Spain and Portugal because they're going to play. We don't have to play Argentina and Brazil because they're going to play. We're going to end up with somebody on a field in the U.S.
Well, it's Belgium, Spain, France, more likely than not, the next 3 games.
Well, we're gonna look. Here's what I look forward to. We're gonna have our guys on the field with someone. We're not gonna have to play everybody, but like as soon as the commentator as soon as the commentators were talking about like this player, I'm like watching it, and then all of a sudden 5 minutes later into the game, I realized, oh, we're 10 on 11, and then I'm watching it more like, what does that mean? He's suspended the next game. Like I got
they did a poor job there. They did a poor job. And thanks, Mike, for the call. I got to move on, but appreciate the call. That was. I think you've got to treat your audience, Fox, as if the majority of the people, or if it's not a majority, it's still a large percentage of the audience, has no idea what the ramifications of that red card to Balogun was last night in the moment. You got to explain it. This is a red card. He's ejected from the game. The U.S. cannot replace him. They will play one man short the rest of the game, and he is suspended out for the next game as well. And I don't think they did a good job of that. I've already been a little – I think overall the broadcast is good. I actually like some of the people that I've watched in the, in the pre-games, half-times, and post-games. And the announcers themselves, I'm not familiar with any of them really, so I haven't listened to them enough. But I think the other thing that they've missed on is there are a lot of cutaways to people of apparent significance during these games. And many times they are former soccer stars or maybe a former soccer coach or whatever. You got to identify who that person is to the American audience. I mean, I would say that unless they're cutting away to Magic Johnson or, Patrick Mahomes, or I saw a cutaway to Justin Fields the other day. I forget where the game was. And by the way, a lot of U.S. Soccer fans who aren't fans of other sports need to be told who Justin Fields is when they cut away to him.
The backup to Patrick Mahomes.
Right now he is. Mahomes is a soccer fan. I'm right about that, I think. So Fields must be. Yeah. Real quickly, I was looking at the world rankings. They update these things, I think, once a week, the FIFA world rankings. So the U.S. is ranked 15th in the world. Belgium's ranked 9th in the world. But, that's not how odds makers do it because it's where's the game? How are they playing right now? But I was looking to see basically how, who's left. The only team in the top, the Netherlands are out, correct? Morocco and the Netherlands are the 2 teams in the top 10 that are out. France is 1. They're number 1 in the world. Argentina's 2. Spain's 3. So to get to the finals, the U.S. would probably have to go through Spain and France in the quarters and the semis. 2 of the top 3 teams in the world. England's 4. Brazil's 5. Morocco is 6. I didn't realize Morocco. I knew they were good. I didn't know they were that good. Netherlands 7. Portugal 8, Belgium is 9, and Mexico is 10. And then Colombia's out, they're 11. Germany's out, they're 12. Croatia's still in it. Italy didn't even make the World Cup. They're 14th in the world. And then there's the U.S. The team they beat last night, Bosnia Herzegovina, just so everybody knows, in the world rankings, 61st. The U.S. has not yet beaten anybody resembling a power. Yet. They get their first on Monday night in Seattle when they play the world's 9th-ranked team, Belgium. And the U.S. is a slight favorite in the game. All right, when we come back, Scott McLuhan was on my podcast yesterday. I'm going to play about 10 minutes of it where Scott tells you what he thought of Washington's draft and what he thinks about the idea of adding Brandon Ayuk. I do want to tell you that if you're having HVAC system issues, and this would not be the best time to have those issues, call Foley Mechanical. My wife and I did so about 8 months ago. We were having some issues. Dan Foley came out to the house directly. He owns the business. It's not a franchise. It's not owned by a hedge fund or a private equity firm. He runs the business. He controls the quality from the equipment to the people he hires to the work that's done. And they are professional. They're skilled. They are super sharp. Dan is the best. If you're having any HVAC issues, I would urge you to call Foley Mechanical or go to FoleyMechanical.com. They are a full-service heating, air conditioning, hot water, and boilers company. They're the go-to for older homes with radiator heat, a real specialty. They work across D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, and they proudly install Amana HVAC equipment. If your system needs help or you just want it done right, go to FoleyMechanical.com or call Foley Mechanical and tell Dan that I sent you. former Skins GM Scott McLuhan has made it for me to my podcast for about 5 straight years, evaluating typically right after the draft, Washington's draft, and then talking some draft. I finally tracked him down yesterday. We spent a lot of time talking about him, actually, and I'm not going to play that part back for you, but you can listen to that on my podcast. He actually has a very interesting sports journey. He was a very, very good high school baseball player and then a very good college baseball player. And then how he became a scout for an NFL team is a pretty interesting story. But the part that I carved out for you is the 10 minutes in which he talks about Washington's draft and gives an opinion on how he views the Brandon Ayuk situation from, let's just say, Adam Peters' seat, sort of projecting. So I started off by asking him, and he's a consultant, by the way, for I think 4 or 5 NFL teams, a draft strategist, a draft consultant. He's been doing that on his own for many, many years now, since leaving the league in terms of an official capacity. He did say that a couple of the players that Washington drafted late, he did not have to evaluate for the teams that he was consulting. So he told me before, don't ask me about the center from Michigan State or I forget the other player. But anyway, I started off by asking him, obviously, about Sonny Styles, and I asked him, did they get it right picking Sonny Styles?
Yes, Sonny's fine, but that's a no-brainer. That's simple.
Let me ask you something. If Carnell Tate had been there at 7 and Washington had taken Carnell Tate at 7, would you be saying the same thing about their pick at 7? Did you like Tate or not?
I liked him. It was just he's kind of a one-year wonder, you know. Well, and Sonny is too, but they had a really good defense. The thing about Sonny, he's versatile. He can play inside or outside, you know. I like Sonny.
So you think that was a good pick? Is there a player in that first round this past April that you thought was overdrafted, and was there a player that you thought was underdrafted?
Oh boy, my personal opinion, of course, but I'm just one guy, you know. I think the quarterback from Alabama was overdrafted.
Okay, Ty Simpson.
Yeah. But it's the position alone, you know. I think, not being a guru, but he's like J.J. McCarthy. He's like Mac Jones. He's a career backup. Ideally, he might start, but that's because of where his pick was, and they want to prove everybody right, you know, type of thing. And that's not the way you should build a roster. Not at all.
Did you like Mendoza?
I did. I thought he's not overly athletic, but good enough. And big kid, which I always like the size.
Right.
And he made big throws in big time times where a lot of guys couldn't do it. And the guy went undefeated.
Yeah.
Senior year. I mean, you know, we used to always measure quarterbacks. I go back to high school and then college. And tell me the win or loss record. Tell me who's the winner and who's the loser. And I'm telling you, majority of the time, the good ones, they win a lot.
Give me the player that you were in love with, that you think the team that picked that player at that spot got tremendous value.
Oh boy. Does that have to be a first rounder?
It doesn't have to be a first rounder.
The linebacker from Missouri. I think he's Nick Bolton. I think he's
Trotter.
Yep. The son of.
Yeah, the son of.
I think he's going to be a dang good football player. I think he was a steal.
Let me ask you about Reuben Bain Jr.'s short arms. Is that a real issue?
You're like the 100th guy to ask me this. You know what? It is from the standpoint of being able to leverage. If you don't have enough strength, put your hands on somebody and move them. But he's so good off the ball. He's got so much power and explosion in his hips that he knocks guys backwards all the time. You can give me a guy with 35.5-inch arms that knocks nobody back. You give me a guy with 33-inch arms and he's knocking guys back. I'm taking the guy with 33-inch arms, 100%. 100%. Now, yeah, I mean, it's like the 40 time with wide receivers. Everybody's like, oh, look how fast he ran and all this and that kind of bullshit. And it doesn't matter. Put the pads on. Let's see what happens on the field. You know, Worthy. Everybody's like, oh, he's going to be great. He's going to be this, that, and all this. And he does one thing. He runs vertical routes, and he doesn't catch the ball. You know, it's Chiefs. I mean, it's just, you can have all the measurables you want, and don't get me wrong, they're important. I mean, you want Myles Garrett. You know, you want a guy that's 6'4", 280 to 290 pounds with arm length and strength and all that. Sure. But that's why he got picked where he got picked.
Right.
But Reuben Bain, I would love him to be on my team. Because I'm telling you, he gets into guys and he's all power. I mean, there's no stopping him. You know, and it's like, well, his arms are short. I mean, I don't care. He's getting to the quarterback. What do you ask him to do? No, I liked him a lot. I gave him a top 10 grade. And for me, that's a big time grade.
What did you think of Washington's wide receiver, the Antonio Williams kid from Clemson?
I like him. I like him a lot. I don't think he's overly physical, but I like his traits. Yeah, I think he's a good football player. I gave him a damn good grade.
Can he play outside and inside?
I think so. Yeah. Yep.
What about Josephs, the defensive end from Tennessee? Did you have any thoughts on him? They took him in the 5th round.
Know, no one asked me to watch him, teams or agents, so I don't really know him. But I know I saw him flash on TV when I'd be watching Tennessee, and he had some cool stuff.
The running back from Penn State, they had a couple of them. Do you like the guy Washington got in Katron Allen?
Well, the thing about it was when they had two guys that were rotating back and forth since their freshman year, and I never saw them improve. They were always the same guy, you know, which is kind of scary. You know, and maybe it was Penn State, and maybe.
Yeah, you're talking about Allen and Singleton. Both of them were at Penn State for a while together.
Yeah, I'm just saying they never improved. They always stayed the same, you know. And I don't know if it's a coaching change, offensive scheme. I have no idea. But they both look like they're going to be legit early, you know, the freshman year. And then all of a sudden they both just petered out.
All right, so tell me what you think about Brandon Ayuk. He wants to play in Washington. He obviously is going to be parting ways at some point with the 49ers. He's been on a bit of a video barrage here in recent weeks, criticizing his current employer, the 49ers. If you're the general manager of the Washington Commanders, if you're Adam Peters, what would you do about Brandon Ayuk if and when he becomes available?
You know, I do a thing every year with the 49ers with their drafts. You know, Matt Barrows, Nyoko, they always want to talk to me. And I said, listen, guys, when they drafted him, I said, he is the number one receiver, talent-wise. I said, but you be very, very careful with the character. Very careful. Because at Arizona State, you got in trouble there too, and Herm Edwards was the coach, and I knew Herm very well. And he's like, listen, he's a wild card. We don't know if he's going to show up. We don't know if he's going to do anything. Or he might come have the best day of his career. I'm like, okay. What he's done from a GM standpoint, from the outside looking in, what he's done to the 49ers is embarrassing. Embarrassing. And what you're getting in your building is going to be the same thing. There'll be good days. There's going to be bad days. First year, you'll be fine. Then all of a sudden you get the comfort zone, then you better hold on. And if you have a locker room that can control that, then power to you. But if you don't, he'll eat you up. It's all about him, not about anybody else.
Thank you, as always. I hope you're doing well. I know you were busy during draft season and shortly after it, but I love when you come on, even a couple months after the draft. It's always good to catch up, and hopefully we can do it again next year.
Kevin, I appreciate it, buddy.
Scott McCloughan from my podcast. He did another 30 some odd minutes with me, talking a lot about his sports journey, which I wasn't totally familiar with, how he got into the NFL, became a very sought after scout and college scouting director, was a part of multiple Super Bowl franchises before getting the GM job here in 2015. Certainly some struggles personally during many of those years, but I think I've said this about Scott many times because we were doing the show. Cooley and I were, from the building a lot of those years, and he would come in and toss stuff around with us, and just a nice guy. The wrong environment, a Snyder, Bruce Allen environment for him, but he's still working, still doing a lot of consulting, and it's good to get his thoughts because he is involved in the draft. He likes Styles. Tate would have been interesting at 7, likes Antonio Williams. Speaking of Antonio Williams, somebody decided that he is going to win a very prestigious NFL award. I'll tell you who said what about Washington's 3rd-round pick Antonio Williams when we come back. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. Ben Solak from ESPN wrote a column yesterday titled 10 Predictions for the 2026 NFL Season. And the 10th prediction dealt with our team. Let me give you an example of some of the predictions. He says Myles Garrett will hit 20 sacks as a Los Angeles Ram. He likes Dak Prescott to become the 10th quarterback in NFL history to throw for 5,000 yards. He thinks the Chiefs will miss the playoffs again. He thinks the Texans will represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. By the way, that would knock that list down of a few teams because Houston's never been to a Super Bowl. One of his predictions is one that I've already thrown out here in the offseason. The Saints will win the NFC South. I like the Saints going into next season. He likes the Vikings to win the NFC North. Jonathan Taylor to get traded to the Bears. Sam Laporta to get traded to the Panthers. Brock Bowers to win Offensive Player of the Year. And then his 10th and final prediction is Antonio Williams will win Offensive Rookie of the Year. He writes, who? Williams was the 71st pick of the 2026 draft and the 9th receiver taken off the board. Although receivers have recently won this award more frequently, we haven't seen late drafted players break into the ranks. Even Puka Nakua's 105 receptions for 1,486 yards. By the way, that's one hell of a rookie season for a receiver. 105 catches and nearly 1,500 yards for Puka Nakua in 23. But that wasn't good enough because C.J. Stroud had a great rookie season and won it in 2023. He writes, the latest drafted receiver to win Rookie of the Year was Anquan Bolden in 2003. He was the 54th pick that year in the draft. He basically makes the case, and I won't read all of it verbatim, but he makes the case that there's only 2 quarterbacks drafted in the first round, and one of them is certainly not going to play in Ty Simpson because of Matt Stafford being in Los Angeles. And Fernando Mendoza, the word is that Kirk Cousins is going to be the starting quarterback to start the year, so he may not play a full season. He writes that the running back class is super thin, even though Jeremiah Love went, top 10, but he went to a bad team, and Jadarian Price went to a good team, but he'll probably share carries in Seattle. So quarterbacks and running backs, not necessarily the same opportunity. And then he writes Carnell Tate gets picked number 4 overall, but in Tennessee. And even a guy like Mekhi Lemon, who got picked by the Eagles, it's a big void to fill, the A.J. Brown void, and they've got other receivers and other options. So he writes, Williams in Washington has an opportunity that stacks up against many of his early drafted contemporaries. He writes, there's hardly any competition behind Terry McLaurin. Williams will catch passes from Jaden Daniels, a remarkably better quarterback than other receivers like Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston in Cleveland or Omar Cooper with the Jets. Williams still needs to dodge the late summer edition of a Brandon Ayuk or Stephon Diggs, but his path to high-quality targets is shockingly clear for the third-round pick. He also writes, Ben Solak from ESPN does, about his prediction that Antonio Williams will win the Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2026. He writes, Williams is also a hand in glove fit for David Blau's Detroit-inspired offense. Williams is an easy glider who makes fearless catches over the middle of the field. He dramatically improved his drop rate in 2025 and has that knack for quarterback friendliness, smart routes, good adjustments to bad balls, inside-out versatility, and yards after catch ability. He is evidently cut from the Amon-Ra St. Brown cloth. And St. Brown's reliability helped him break into the Lions' starting lineup as a 4th-round rookie. Yeah, Amon-Ra proved pretty quickly in that offense that he was legit. And that has been one of the comps for Antonio Williams. That's out on a limb. He would be, as he pointed out, the latest wide receiver in terms of drafted slot to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. Anquan Bolden won it in 2003 as the 54th pick in the draft. But the opportunity for Antonio Williams certainly appears to be there. And, that's one of the things I was thinking about when I was reading through this last night, is that on a team like the team Washington has right now, assuming they don't add another receiver, let's just make that assumption. It isn't necessarily a safe assumption. I understand that. But if this is the group they go into, if Antonio Williams isn't getting significant snaps by midseason, they probably didn't get the player right. I mean, it's early. The draft takes 3 years to evaluate. Understood. But the opportunity is so there for him. So there. And if he's what they hoped that he would be at that position on this roster, he should get meaningful snaps and targets as a rookie if he's the guy they thought they picked. Could be a slow developer. That happens all the time with the drafted players. All right. The first top 100 NFL player list is out. They'll be fast and furious over the next month to 2 months. But the first one is out. How many Washington players are on it? I'll tell you when we return. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, the team980.com. Don't forget you can watch this show on the Team 980's YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button and the like button when you get there. CBS Sports' Pete Prisco every year, right around now, does his top 100 NFL players list entering 2026. These lists, we're at list time of year. List, rankings, predictions, and we will get another 2 or 3 of these top 100 player lists. I think the one that we spend the most time on typically is the one that players vote on, which is the NFL.com NFL Network countdown of the top 100 players entering 2026. But this is the first one that's out, or at least the first one that I've seen, and he does it every single year. He's got the number 1 player in the league. Be hard to argue this, but positionally, I don't know if I would do it this way, but he's got Myles Garrett as the number 1 player in the league. He's coming off, obviously, the single season sack record he set last year in Cleveland, and now he's going to be with the Rams and that team. Look, I think Myles Garrett's been a top 3, top 5 player in the league for a while now. I'd still probably go quarterback number 1 overall. But Garrett, he's got at 1, and then he's got at number 2, Matt Stafford. Okay, he won the MVP last year. They didn't win the Super Bowl. It was not his fault getting to the Super Bowl. It was the fault of the special teams, and even the defense wasn't great at the end of the year. He would not be my number 2 player. I mean, in ranking the quarterbacks, I love Matt Stafford. I've always been a big Matt Stafford fan. Pete Prisco didn't even rank in the top 100 last year. Matt Stafford. That tells you something about NFL seasons, right? Patriots, Seahawks over-unders of 7.5 games last year. Nobody picked them. Weren't even in the top half of the league in odds to win the Super Bowl. And they ended up facing each other in the Super Bowl. And a top 100 list of players last year didn't include the player that won the MVP, Matt Stafford. Number 3 is Josh Allen. Number 4 is Jamar Chase. And number 5 is Joe Burrow. Rounding out the top 10, Pete Prisco has on his top 100 NFL players entering 2026. Lions tackle Penei Sewell, then Patrick Mahomes, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, and he's got Lamar Jackson at 10. How many Washington players made this top 100 list? Did I already tell you what the answer to that question was, Max? I think I did.
2.
Yeah. 2 players. Now, last year, there were a few more. I think Terry, Jaden, Wagner, and I think Tunsil, even though he hadn't played for Washington yet, but he was getting traded to Washington. I think they were all in the top 100. This year, just 2 in the NFL top 100 players. Jaden Daniels comes in at number 69. By the way, that's the 11th quarterback. And Laramie Tunsil comes in at number 76. Those are the only 2 Washington players on the list. You know, I was looking through this to see, you know, where players that they went after and didn't get in free agency ranked. Well, Alec Pierce isn't on the list. Not on the list. Top 100 players. I kind of agree with that. I think Alec Pierce is a good receiver. I don't think he was worth the money that he was demanding and got. By the way, wanted to stay in Indianapolis. And then Romeo Doubs is not on this list either. Tyler Linderbaum is on the list because he is a true A-level player. And he got overpaid. There's no doubt about that. Both of those things are true. I'm just, in thinking of Washington's roster, I'm sure some of you are like, wait a minute, Terry McLaurin's not on the list? No, he's not. And he probably won't be on the players list either, I'm guessing, when that comes out. It is very much skewed towards recency bias, these lists are. And Terry had his first legitimate off year and injured year of his career. So he's likely not going to be on anybody's list. Other than Tunsil and Jaden, I don't see anybody on their roster that's going to be on this list. Nobody. So there you go. That's what you're dealing with entering this season. It's subjective, obviously, and some people, you might find a list with Terry on it. You might find a list with who else would even be on it? Jaden and Tunsil are your A players. I think Terry's an A player. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's an elite player. There are 13 receivers, by the way, on this list that Terry is not on. So that would make him at best, according to Prisco, the 14th best receiver. But there are others that are missing that seem kind of obvious. But by the way, Drake London is on the list for those of you that called me an idiot when I said I would take Drake London over Terry. Again, it's one person's opinion. Who cares? But London's younger. He's bigger. He's better, flat out. That's it. That's the list of players that can be on that list. Cosme isn't, coming off a year that anybody's going to remember. He didn't start playing until week 6. Chig is not really known yet. I mean, it's possible he could be on this list this time next year. And defensively, I mean, who would be on the list? They don't have, last year Wagner was on it, but obviously after last year he's not going to be on it. Nobody from this defense from last year's roster is going to be on it. And of the players they acquired, they didn't. Oweh may have been on the list had he played the way he played in L.A. all season long, but he didn't. So more of these to come over the summer, I'm sure, including the NFL Network list, which is always interesting because it's the players voting and you wonder what the players think. Maybe you don't. Here's something else that I just saw that came out this morning. And man, you talk about a sort of an NFC East crapshoot heading into 2026. This was a column titled NFC East, Can Cowboys, Giants, or Commanders Unseat Eagles, who became the first team in the NFC East in 21 years to go back-to-back, winning the division title in 2024 and in 2025. And this is where, the beat reporters for each of the 4 teams weigh in on several questions. Tim McManus is the Eagles reporter. Todd Archer is the ESPN Cowboys reporter. Jordan Renan is the Giants reporter. And, of course, John Keim is the Washington ESPN reporter. So there are questions like, what do the offseason moves mean for your quarterback? Keim writes about Blau and writes about the, Okonkwo and Antonio Williams and what they didn't do. What's the biggest concern for your team? Keim writes, more receiver help. What has been the most underrated move by your team? Keim says there are many moves that might be underrated, but a lot of the so-called splash ones have been discussed. Oweh, Chason, Chenal, and Styles. But he goes with the signing of veteran Nick Cross. I like that one. They love Nick Cross. Terp. And then who will win the NFC East in 2026 from each reporter's perspective? Let me just tell you, this is not something where they have to. They can pick whoever they want. Keim, Archer, McManus, Renan, they can pick whomever they want to win the division. And I've seen this column out many times in recent years where they all picked, or 3 of them picked the Cowboys, 1 picked the Eagles. 3 of them picked the Eagles, 1 of them picked the Cowboys. But listen to what happened this year. In the question to the 4 ESPN beat reporters covering the NFC East teams. Who wins the NFC East? Tim McManus in Philadelphia. He says the Eagles. Todd Archer in Dallas. He picked the Cowboys. Jordan Renan in New York. He picked the Giants to win the NFC East.
I wonder who John picked.
And then John came in, and his selection, Washington. All 4 picked their own teams. John wrote, the division will be much tighter, a much tighter race than perhaps many anticipate. At this point, you'd still have to go with the Eagles simply because they've been the class of the division. But they have their own questions and always seem on the verge of collapse, only to always recover. But their roster is so well constructed that entering camp, you'd have to say them. We also know that last season was the first repeat winner since 2004 when the Eagles won 4 in a row. However, Washington will be improved and a threat if Daniels stays healthy. Dallas has an explosive offense, so if its defense improves, then the Cowboys can dethrone the Eagles. The Giants have made lots of changes, but they have holes and more questions than the other three teams and are perhaps a year away from taking a big step. So John basically makes the case for the Eagles, Cowboys, and Washington, but his pick is Washington. So kind of too early to make a pick on the division, but I would say this about Washington in 2026. Write 2025 out of your mind. They shouldn't do it. They shouldn't coach to that. But 2025, as I have said many times, should not be the foundation of your Washington 2026 prediction. It would be super silly to do that. This is an entirely new football team defensively. And if all of the players that didn't play a lot of football last year on offense do play a lot of football in 2026 offensively, it's going to be a completely different team week in and week out that takes the field than the team that took the field last year. It's really absurd to look, first of all, any NFL season to look back is dangerous, unless the team was a juggernaut and brings back all of the same players and the quarterback is consistent year to year and elite. Those are the safest teams to pick in terms of they're going to have success. Everybody else, man, you have no idea how it'll come together. Will they stay healthy? Will it come together chemistry-wise? What will their schedule, how will it actually play out in real time? Because it's not who you play. It's not what it looks like now. It's when you play those teams that matters more than anything else. Because something that looks very difficult today, by the time you get to it, it might be your easiest game on the schedule. You don't know that right now. But to use 25 for Washington as they weren't very good last year, so they really are going to have to play much better than they did last year. No, that's actually not what needs to happen. They have to have different players on the field in 2026 than they had in 2025. And we already know that defensively, they're going to have a lot of new players on the field. 6 new starters, minimum. Offensively, you are counting on, and this is the number one for 2026. Will Jaden Daniels be healthy and play 17 games? Or, no less than 15, 16. And if he misses a game, it's a minor kind of a thing. That's number one on the list. Because if your best player who plays that position doesn't play 15, 16 plus games, you are doomed almost always in the league, like last year. So that's number one. And then obviously you want Terry for a full offseason, full training camp, healthy, upright, having a Terry kind of a season. You want that offensive line to continue to grow from where it was last year. Tunsil and Connerly, and big question at center. You're going to have a new center. Cosme's going to be here, hopefully ready to go for an entire season instead of just a partial part of the season. What are you going to do at guard? Is Chris Paul going to be the guy? Or will Brandon Coleman be starting at left guard? New tight end, very likely at least one of the two backs that gets a lot of snaps, brand new, and Rachaad White. Totally different team, not to mention the two coordinators, of course. Totally different team. I think Washington, if Jaden Daniels, if you tell me right now, here's the question. If I told you right now, Jaden Daniels, healthy, starts all 17 games and completes all 17 games, what's the best case for Washington in 2026? Because that matters so much more than anything else individually, and really a lot of things in combination with each other. If I told you Jaden Daniels, assume this, Jaden Daniels, healthy, 17 games start to finish, What does that equal in terms of number of wins and what kind of team Washington has? 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. I'll give you my answer. Max will give you his answer, and I want yours at 301-230-0980. By the way, all of our football talk on this show, on the Team 980, is presented by Xfinity. Score the most reliable Wi-Fi. One price, 5 years, guaranteed. Xfinity, imagine that. 301-230-0980. If Jaden Daniels plays 17 games start to finish fully healthy, how many wins for Washington in 2026? There is nothing anywhere near as important as that as far as this team's upcoming season. Nothing individually, coordinators, O-line, wide receiver situation, pass rush. You even take 2 or 3 of those things and put them together, and they probably don't exceed the importance of Jaden Daniels being on the field healthy, playing start to finish 17 games. Last year, he only played in 4 games out of 17 start to finish healthy. And you could actually make the case that it was only 3 games start to finish healthy because he got hurt in that Green Bay game and stayed in the game. And that was one of the 4 games he played start to finish. We do have our Waldorf Honda Twitter poll up. The poll of the day is driven by Waldorf Honda. It all starts with a click, waldorfhonda.com. And the question is, if Jaden plays all 17 games, how many wins? And the potential answers are 7 or less, 8 to 9, 10 to 11, or 12 plus. 301-230-0980. Let's start with our guy, Kevin, in Arlington. Kevin, what's up?
Hey, Kev. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wait a
I'm
minute.
bullish.
We didn't give our answers. I'm gonna wait to give my answer, and so will Max. So you give your answer first, Kev.
Oh, okay. I'm bullish with a healthy Daniels, and let's just say if we don't have another injury plague, and to me, the injury plague, I'll never be able to prove this, but I think it's rooted in the age of the roster a year ago, the lack of hunger, which the coaches cited, and let's face it, they had a Club Med preseason. They're not doing that this time around, and I like the team. I like the changes that have been made to the roster and to the coordinators, both of them. So, I see it being a team that battles for 9 or 10 wins because it looks like a monster schedule today. I'm thinking it's still going to look like a monster schedule in November. We'll see. But I think it's a team that's going to battle for a playoff spot. I'm not saying they're going to get in, but I don't see a losing record. I see a floor of 9 wins, although I don't see 11. I'm thinking it's a 9 to 10 win type team.
Okay.
That's where I see it.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is based on the assumption that the quarterback plays all 17 healthy start to finish, because obviously the number changes drastically if he doesn't. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it. Did Kevin have something else? I'm sorry, Kev. Ian, go ahead.
I'm going to go with 9 and 8. I think.
Whoa.
You think that's?
I don't know the way your tone in the off season. Not that it's always this. It's always a bit off-putting, and negative. But I was expecting you to be, the coordinators, the coach, the general manager, the ownership, they all suck. This is a 6-win team. So you're going 9. All right. Tell me why.
Yeah, so my official prediction is 8 and 9, but if Jaden's healthy the whole way, I'll go 9 and 8. Even if Jaden Daniels plays, let's not say at an MVP level like he did his rookie year, but a Pro Bowl caliber level, I think the unknowns at offensive defensive coordinator, the unknowns of the defensive players, and not, like you said, any top 100 caliber players, coupled with the wide receiving core. And I think you bring up a very astute point that it's not Terry McLaurin from 2024. It's Terry McLaurin in 2026 with nothing else really around him. You got 3 of the same receivers in Jalen Lane, Luke McCaffrey, and Antonio Williams, an unknown at tight end, a subpar running back room. Like, I just don't see enough pieces around and enough coaching to get past 9. So that's where I'd say.
Real quickly, while I have you on, sorry, everybody. I'm just going to ask him one question. You did predict the win over Bosnia-Herzegovina last night. You said that they actually will have a shot at Belgium if Belgium wins. They did. But what was your soccer expertise opinion on the red card?
Yeah. So based on the way VAR is, where they use a lot of still images and slow image motion, I think it was properly adjudicated as a red card. However, I don't like the way replay is structured all across the world with freeze frames and still shots. I think it should be live motion. And to me, I take the Zabe approach of replay should be there to overturn egregious misses. This wasn't an egregious miss. If it was normal in the field play, it was a tie-up, I wouldn't have even given it a yellow card. But once you go to that slow motion VAR, it was obvious it was going to be a red because those images are too difficult to overturn.
Okay.
But that's my analysis.
All right. Thank you. Happy
Thanks.
4th to you.
You too.
So if Jaden plays fully healthy start to finish all 17 games, how many wins? So I'm going to go, I agree with Kevin in Arlington. My number would be 10. Now, I mean, I could certainly see 9. I think if Jaden Daniels is your quarterback, 17 games start to healthy finish, finishing healthy start to finish, I don't see how Washington would ever be a bad football team. Like, that would be completely impossible for me to imagine. An 8-9, 9-8 season, if your defense is horrendous, I've pointed to the Cincinnati season from 2 years ago, 2024, when Joe Burrow had an MVP kind of a season with Chase and Higgins and, that team, and they almost made the postseason, but they finished 9-8 because their defense was just so bad. And that's a scenario which can happen, which is you can have a great quarterback, which leads to a really good offense, but the defense is terrible. And then you're in a really tough division or you've got a really tough schedule. And, the quarterback can't, with his great play, get you that extra win or 2 more, whatever it takes. Because Joe Burrow in 2024 in that Cincinnati offense was ridiculous, but their defense could not get off the field at all. And they were in a tough division. So I think if he plays 17 games start to healthy, I think this team is intriguing enough, especially with what they've done on the defensive side of the ball, that I could definitely see 10 wins. And I, again, would have a hard time predicting any less than 9 if he's your quarterback for 17 games healthy start to finish. Max, what would be your number?
I'm going to be a homer here, Kevin. I think it could be 12 plus.
Ooh.
Yeah, Brian I don't know if anybody heard that over the mic.
Yeah, Brian just clutched his chest.
He did, as a Cowboys fan.
Is there a defib machine in the studio?
We'll have to get one. I'll get Roger on it. But Jaden, after last year, I think he's really hungry to prove himself, to show that year 1 wasn't a fluke, that he keeps distracting me. But well, if he's not breathing, let's get him some help. Let's not let you finish, espousing your views. If you shocked him into bad health, let's take care of that. We got it though. 12 plus wins, and you think Jaden's on a revenge tour? Yeah,
in
pretty much.
2026. Yeah. God, man, I can't wait to see what he looks like. Again. Could it be a slow go because of the new offense and the adjustments and the supporting cast? Maybe. This is where I hope early in the season, it's so obvious that the defense is just better. Better players, better coached. And sometimes defense can be a little bit ahead of offense early in the season. We got to see that against Philly, Dallas, and Seattle. Mark and Largo, if Jaden plays start to finish 17 games fully healthy, how many wins?
I think you gotta factor that in. It's not just Jaden, man. I think the most important people on that offense is you got to make sure Diami's playing. You got to make sure Terry's playing. You got to make sure Chig is playing, because
that's the most
all he wants.
You've missed the whole premise of what we're doing here. I'm assuming that even you understand the most important person, not only on the offense, but on the entire football team, is Jaden Daniels. He's the best player. He's at the most important position. If he plays fully healthy, start to finish, no other assumptions made, how many wins?
For me, I would say 11 or 12.
Okay.
But the reality, okay, but Kevin, this is what you got to start understanding. I mean, you got to have a better receiving core than you had last year, because I think that's what really got him hurt last year.
Well, you just went 11 or 12. That's your reality. I gave you the only assumption to go off of, and you go 11 or 12. I'm
okay, but
happy.
Let me explain something.
Yeah, go ahead. Explain everything to me.
Okay. Yeah. Let me explain something to you, okay? I understand
Please.
that. We just need to look. I hope Antonio Williams balls out. I think the key is De'Ami Brown. The hell with Brandon Ayuk. I mean, Stephon Diggs maybe, but the key I think is De'Ami Brown and Van Jefferson. Mm-hmm. And I hope Antonio Williams balls out, because if he can ball out as a receiver, as the slot receiver, and you have Terry and De'Ami and Treylon and Van Jefferson, I'm happy with that. None of this Luke McCaffrey crap. Okay, let's trade him to San Francisco, whatever. But look, we have to. This is a put up or shut up year for a lot of people. I think for Jaden, but I think more importantly for your boy, Adam Peters. And you can't just
you keep saying that.
Can't go with that. But yeah, 11 or 12.
11 or 12. Mark and Largo weighing in with a very optimistic max style prediction if Jaden plays all 17 games. That's the question. If I tell you right now, he's going to play all 17, he's going to be healthy, he's going to play in all 17 start to finish. Last year, he literally only played 3 games start to finish healthy. He only played in 4, total start to finish, healthy or unhealthy. That's it. I'm giving you 17 of number 5. How many wins, Kevin in Virginia? Go ahead.
8 and 10, because Jaden can't play on.
They don't play 18. 8 to 10 or 8 and 10.
Oh, sorry. 8 and 9. 8 and 9.
8 and 9. Got it.
Because we did nothing. We did nothing to improve our secondary. I mean, we can't cover anybody. We need a number 1 quarterback, and he didn't do that. We have the same group with a couple of scrubs coming in, and Jaden can't cover people. He can't score that many points on his own to cover that gap. I don't understand. Maybe I don't understand the game well enough. But I don't understand why I didn't do more in the secondary to improve that.
Well, they added Robertson. They added Nick Cross. They get Trey Amos back. I don't know what it's going to look like with the scheme. Pass rush is going to be a priority. They've got to stop the run for the first time in a couple of years. There's a lot that will go into how the secondary will play. I'm not saying that it's not a legitimate concern, because obviously it was a weak point last year, but they lost Trey Amos, who ended up probably being their best corner, and they just didn't have a good enough pass rush. Do we have breaking news?
Yeah, we do. We do have breaking news.
What's the breaking news?
Stanley Cup champion and NHL all-time leading goal scorer Alex Ovechkin will return for his 22nd season, becoming the longest tenured athlete in DC sports history.
That was kind of the expectation here over the last few weeks, right?
So, personally for me, yes. Thank you, Kevin. But personally for me, yeah, I thought he was going to come back, but there was an announcement about the future of his career being announced in Russia later this month. And so a lot of people were saying, like, all the signs point to him retiring. All the signs point to it being over. And it's not.
In that finale against Pittsburgh, right? That last game against Pittsburgh, when the Penguins wanted to kind of reach out to him and give him a big, hey, man, unbelievable career. And he just sloughed it off, pushed it off. That was kind of an indication that he had not made up his mind at the very least. And let me ask you about, like, contractually, what does this mean for him? Like, what?
So this is it. So the Caps have the tweet here. Ovechkin's contract will carry an average annual value of $4.25 million, closing all of the cap space that they had remaining, and will be for a 1-year extension.
What will his role be, Max? Will it be different? Is he going to be out on every power play? Will the ice time remain the same as it has in recent years?
I think.
Do you think they had to sit down with him and say, we do want you back, so you want to come back, let's work this out, but here is how we see your role in 2026, 2027?
I think Carberry's going to lower his minutes a little bit. I think he'll see time on maybe not the first power play unit, but likely the second power play unit. So he'll get some time out there. I mean, the shot's always lethal, and he's definitely deserves another go around. But yeah, I'm thrilled, man. I think he'll probably be somewhere deeper in the lineup because I mean they've got so many guys now. I mean, let me pull up the list again, but they were really, really active in all these signings. I mean, Ovechkin being in, Kyrou coming over, Tuck, Boone Jenner, and Descharnais, 2 defensemen that they signed. Jenner was, I believe, he bounced around a little bit. I think he was most recently in Dallas. Could have been Columbus. I'm not 100% sure. But Descharnais is a big dude from San Jose. And he's like 6'4", 6'5". And the Caps are getting really big. They have 10 guys potentially in the lineup that are 6'4" or taller. So it's going to be a really, really big lineup. And I think he's probably going to slot in probably somewhere in the third line, just giving it a little bit more scoring depth. I think they're probably going to pair him with Jordan Kyrou because Kyrou's really, really fast, quick guy.
Right.
I'm pumped, man. I'm so excited.
So here's Ovechkin's quote in the Caps press release on Alex Ovechkin being signed to a 1-year contract to come back and play in his 22nd season in Washington. Quote, "I'm back. Thank you to everyone for giving me and my family the time to make this decision. I'm healthy. I love playing hockey and competing to win. I'm excited to come back and join my teammates so we can fight for a playoff spot and have a chance to win. See you in September, DC!" Exclamation point, closed quote. He turns 41 in September. As everybody knows at this point, he is the all-time NHL goal-scoring leader with 929 career goals. And that will continue. He's going to have some goals next year because he had some goals this past year and had a pretty good season relative to his age. So that's exciting to get him back. And look, I mean, you've pointed this out several times, Max. The Caps last year with what, 90? It was 95 points, right? Was that the final number?
95 or 96? I can't remember the exact number. But yes,
I think it was 95 points. They basically, in any other division except the 2 divisions in the East, would have been right there for a playoff spot. And what was it? Something like, the 12th or 13th best overall point total, something like that. Hopefully they're back in the postseason next year. And I'm guessing next year will be the last year, but who knows? Who knows? LeBron just keeps coming back. I mean, LeBron's a year older. What a career. Glad he's coming back. Good for Caps fans. All right. I'm going to finish up with some thoughts on the trade yesterday of Jaylen Brown to Philadelphia. Some Nats follow-up to their series against Boston. And I promise, just one thought on Brandon Ayuk to end the show. That's next. The breaking news is that Alex Ovechkin is coming back. The Capitals announced that moments ago. 1 year, $4.25 million deal loaded with incentives. Alex Ovechkin returning for his 22nd season in Washington. I got this from JC in Reston. JC wrote, Kevin, no question in my mind, Ayuk finally took someone's advice and shut it down. Now the question is, will he undergo a public makeover so the next time we see him, he looks normal enough to sign? JC, you, me, and several others a little bit premature with the he's gone silent and he's getting big-time advice. Guess who just posted on social media's Instagram? Yep, he's back. Basically 5 days without posting anything.
He was going through withdrawals, Kev.
Yeah, and he posted himself in a 30-second video in a parking lot doing a dance with burgundy shorts and burgundy shoes on. And the message that is planted dead center on this video, mood, because I'm going to be a commander soon. Okay. It looks, I can't hear it. What is it? There's just music playing?
Yeah, there's just music playing underneath.
I don't have the audio, as you know, on my on my studio seat. Can't have that because audio can just start blaring. Andrew Brandt, friend of the show, current head of business, the sports business school at Villanova, former front office exec in Green Bay. He tweeted out just in the last hour. He's making Instagram videos just begging the 49ers to cut him. He's bashing the 49ers, bashing John Lynch, bashing his agent, bashing the NFLPA. He's talking about signing with the Commanders. I'm just thinking Adam Peters, the GM, or anyone associated with the Commanders, you want that? You think the Commanders want a piece of that? I can't see it. Yeah, I mean, look, from pundits, from former NFL front office people, you heard what Scott McLuhan said on this show earlier. Scott McLuhan wouldn't do it. And people that know him and have been around him, like TJ Houshmandzadeh. Everybody's put out the warning sign, don't do it. Houshmandzadeh said if Adam Peters signs Brandon Ayuk, he should be fired on the spot. I don't know if somehow he's back on social media after a 5-day respite hiatus, saying I'm in a mood because I'm going to be a commander soon. If that's delusional, wishful thinking, or maybe he knows something, I don't know. Man, we'll see. Look, maybe over the last 5 days, he got some real people into his life, and they've approached the 49ers, and there's some sort of deal being, figured out so that he can be released. We don't know that he's applied for league reinstatement. He has to do that. Whew. All right. Man, Jaylen Brown getting traded from the Celtics to the 76ers. Just so everybody knows this, they used to be arch rivals. I just don't understand this at all. I've said this going back to before, the Giannis trade to Miami happened. I don't think I would have traded Jaylen Brown for Giannis Antetokounmpo because Giannis hasn't played enough recently. Jaylen Brown gets dealt to the Philadelphia 76ers for Paul George, 36-year-old Paul George, 2 first-round picks. It's 2 first-rounders, 2 second-rounders, and that's the deal. This is lopsided in the 76ers' favor, in my opinion. Paul George is 36. He served a 25-game suspension last year for violating the NBA's anti-drug policy and also has been hurt. I mean, there was a time in which Paul George would have been a prize. This doesn't make any sense to me at all. I have no idea what Boston's doing, what Brad Stevens is doing. But I will just say that there must be something more to the story because I believe Brad Stevens is really sharp and knows what he's doing. Colin Cowherd, actually, you have that sound? Play it.
Brad Stevens is getting crushed, the GM. they obviously wanted Jaylen Brown out of the building. Jaylen Brown, I had 2 NBA sources tonight, 2 people in the league, one an executive, one a scout, say that Jaylen Brown it's a disease. He suddenly thinks he's the smartest guy in every room he's in. I've worked with people in the media. It's really, you get into a really bad space. You make a lot of money. Suddenly you're absolutely sure. You don't want to listen to your bosses. You don't want to listen to consultants. You don't want to listen to teammates. Jaylen's kind of, and by the way, this was, one executive told me, this was always a little bit of Jaylen Brown's personality, kind of the smartest guy in the room, and live streaming and throwing it out there. And that's just not a good space. It used to be nothing good happens after 3 a.m. Nothing good happens when pro athletes live stream. It's just trouble. Stay away from it. You need PR people. Even
you can cut it up. You can cut him off. Yeah, I mean, so there must have been something going on where they just got to the point where they're like, we don't want him back. But you got to come up with a better deal than that. How couldn't you? I can't, unless, there was a report the other day that the market for Jaylen Brown was not as strong as you would have anticipated, given that he had a second-team All-NBA season. He's in his prime. He's coming off the best year of his career. He basically led the Celtics to a phenomenal regular season. And, 2 months ago, the Celtics were the favorite to make the NBA Finals out of the Eastern Conference, and Jaylen Brown was leading the way. And then they lost in 7 games to the 76ers, and now here we are. But maybe the Jaylen Brown personality, this is the first time I've heard this, maybe the Jaylen Brown personality is precisely why the market wasn't as strong as what many thought it would be. You can be great, but you better be almost like Michael Jordan or LeBron great. And Jaylen Brown's not at that level, but damn, he's a good player. Always been one of my favorites because he is a great two-way player. Keep in mind, he was the NBA Finals MVP, not Jason Tatum. That year, he was the NBA Eastern Conference Finals MVP as well. So he goes to Philadelphia. The key for Philly, though, is that he's certainly going to make a big difference with Maxey and Edgecombe, et cetera. But it's Embiid. Joel Embiid, for them to be a true championship contender, he's got to be healthy, and he's got to be healthy when they're playing their biggest games. And that's always been the issue with him. All right. Be cool. Stay inside. Do whatever they're telling you to do. Brutal heat for the next few days. We are off tomorrow. Tomorrow's the July 4th holiday. Enjoy the 4th. I'll be back on Monday. Chris Russell's next.